I have opened up to so much more love than ever. I'm actually getting a bit emotional, than ever before in my life, because that failure enabled me to see things that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to see. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, then welcome. My name is Lorena. I am a self-concept coach, and I support women in shifting their self-concept, shifting their identity, stepping into their most aligned, authentic version of themselves so that you can manifest anything that you truly desire in your life. If you enjoy this video, then please leave a like, leave a comment, share it with a friend, and if you want to stick around, if you want to see future videos, then please subscribe if you haven't already. And I also invite you to check out the links in the description box below, because you have a bunch of amazing free resources and masterclasses there so that you can get started on your journey of changing your self-concept and manifesting the reality of your dreams through a very integrated and holistic and grounded approach. So today I want to talk about failure, and I want to talk about giving up too early on your manifestation journey. And we're also going to speak a little bit about persistence and what that really means, because sometimes giving up doesn't look like actually saying I'm going to give up. Sometimes it's also just not doing the right thing and staying in stagnation and stuckness. But let's first talk about giving up, because many people give up way too early on their manifestation journey. There are basically two sides of people, or two groups of people. The ones that when they don't see immediate results, they think they failed and they give up. And then there are the ones who push and force and try to make something happen that is just not happening, and they don't know what they're doing wrong, and they almost get stubborn. And I can honestly say I've been in both fields. I've been with different manifestations, and especially in the beginning of my journey many years ago, I definitely did both. I was once in a place where I said, okay, I'm throwing in the towel, although deep in my heart, I still really wanted what I wanted. And I've also been in a place where I pushed and tried to force something and make something happen that wasn't actually true to what I wanted, or that wasn't supposed to unfold in the way that I wanted it to unfold. I could tell you a million stories. What I want to bring it down to is that when you're in a place where you're just giving up too early, that is not the same as surrendering. I speak a lot about the importance of surrendering, right? Because when we force, when we resist, nothing moves. You'll probably have experienced that when you try to push something to happen, when you try to force something into existence, things just get worse. They don't get better, or you get super stuck. So it's really important to know how to surrender and to learn how to surrender, which is a body-based experience. It's a felt experience. It's not something that you just decide through acceptance in your mind. Accepting things as they are mentally can help you, but truly it's an embodied somatic experience, the experience of surrender, because it has a lot to do with your nervous system, which is a whole other topic. But the point is, surrendering and giving up are not the same thing. Many people think they are surrendering when in all actuality they're just giving up early on their vision, and they are not holding the vision anymore, and they are not believing that it's possible anymore, or maybe they never did. And that often comes from a lack of clarity around how manifestation really works. There is an abundance of information out there, and not all of it is correct. A lot of it is overly simplified. And so people don't really have the full process of how they can shift their state in a sustainable way and actually manifest what they desire without completely giving up, and also without trying to force things into existing through a lot of resistance, because neither of those work. Of course, when people simplify manifestation so much, when they say, oh, you just need to visualize, or you just need to do this meditation for 30 days and it will happen. Of course, then when it doesn't happen, it can feel very frustrating, and you can feel like you failed or like you're doing something wrong. But the truth is, if you really want to do this, if you really want what you want and you want to make it manifest sustainably, that requires a deep shift, a deep transformation in your subconscious. And that is work, my friends. Of course, it's easy to say, oh, it's so simple and you just need to get into the state. That's easy to say, but that's very surface level. That doesn't really tell you how to do it. That doesn't really give you any steps that you can take. In a recent video, I was speaking about how I don't believe in being delusional, which is such a big trend right now. And the reason is that it's spiritual bypassing, essentially. And when you're in that place and then it doesn't work, you automatically think that you failed. And I have been there too. I can speak to this from personal experience. I had moments where I was going in circles, on and on and on and on and on. I would always end up back at the same place. And by doing that, I actually held myself back from my desires. The thing is, persistence does not mean that you just keep trying, that you just keep doing what already previously didn't work and then hoping for a different outcome. That is not what persistence means. It means that you don't give up, but it doesn't mean that you keep trying the same thing over and over again when you have already proven to yourself that that wasn't working. Now, this is obviously a nuanced conversation. I don't know exactly what you're doing. Without exactly knowing what you're doing and what your backstory is, I can't give a blanket statement of you're not persisting or you're pushing at something that isn't working or you're doing it the right way, but you have to, just be patient. I can't tell you that for your specific scenario. That requires more intimate work with me. But if you've been trying something for a while and it's not shifting, then it probably needs a change. Now, let's talk about failure for a moment, because I have experienced many so-called failures on my journey, on my path to manifesting my desires. And none of them actually were failures, but let me give you some examples and I will share at the end with you how failures can manifest, because not every failure is the same. So one example that I can give you of a failed manifestation is when I was manifesting what at the time was my dream job. This was 2015. I did everything right. I really wanted this. I really felt myself in it. I visualized myself in the office building. I was like, this is happening. And then I didn't get it. Now, what actually ended up happening is that I accepted that. I surrendered to that. I basically moved on, but I didn't give up on the desire. I never gave up. And 2 years later, 3 years later, whole 3 years later, I ended up getting a job at that company in the most divine way, and it was an even better position than what I had originally wanted. It was sort of like the same thing, but it was just a higher level and more pay, and it was overall better, and it was a better timing as well. So is that a failure? No, that's not a failure. That's a delay. That was actually an improvement that I received, but I could have seen that as failure. I could have accepted, I did accept the situation in the moment, but I didn't give up. I did persist, and I could have seen this as, oh, this just isn't meant to be for me, or this is never going to happen, and I didn't do that. And that is important when you experience what is perceived as a failure. It can actually teach you, do you really want it? So it can also be a bit of a test in persistence. I also, for example, had a failed manifestation when I was manifesting a relationship with somebody specific. I have a video on this also. And that turned out to be the biggest gift. Now, that relationship I didn't end up persisting in after that manifestation failed, because what that failure made me realize was that I didn't really want it in the first place, and that was not what my soul was truly calling me towards. And now that I am past this heartbreak and that I have let this person go for such a long time, I have opened up to so much more love than ever. I'm actually getting a bit emotional, than ever before in my life, because that failure enabled me to see things that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to see, and to feel things that otherwise I wouldn't have been able to feel. It enabled me to hire the support that I needed. It enabled me to heal my heart and to go back through so many experiences from the past that I hadn't yet dealt with, and it enabled me to get clear on what it truly was that I wanted in love, in relationships, even in friendships. And my heart is so open now, and I am so much more in love with life and with everyone who comes into my path, and so much more clear on the relationships that I want around me and that I now have around me. I now don't have any misalignment in my relationships anymore. I don't have people in my life who don't fully choose me, who don't fully respect me. These are not experiences that I have anymore. And that failure contributed to it in a large part. I also had some failures in my work, in my business. Not every time, in the beginning especially, not every time I was selling coaching, it was successful, right? First, people needed to get to know me. I needed to build a reputation. I needed to get more confident. There were hard times in business as well. And especially in the beginning, I didn't know whether this would work out. I had actually lost my job at the time, and I decided to go all in on becoming a business owner and really building something for myself. And there were many times, let me tell you, many times where it would have been so much easier to give up, where, like things didn't look like they were working, and it would have been easy to say, well, this just isn't for me, and this is too hard, and I'm gonna let this go. And I didn't. I kept going. I persisted. I didn't keep going in the same way. I did pivot. I did hire support. I didn't go it alone, but I did persist. All of it required me not to give up. All of these 3 examples, including the relationship manifestation, because that also required me to keep believing in love, even though that particular relationship had not worked out. So you need to choose not to give up. I was actually just speaking to one of my own coaches this week, and she was congratulating me on my success with my work and my business and how many people I get to serve and how much impact I'm creating. And she said to me, so many people would have given up at some of these obstacles that you've experienced on the way, and I didn't. I never gave up. And that is something that you can ask yourself when things don't go the way you want them to go, when there are obstacles presenting themselves to you. What do? Do you give up? Do you keep trying the same thing knowing it hasn't worked before? And so you get into this place of stuckness or going in cycles or blaming yourself? Or do you recognize that what you've been doing maybe hasn't worked, or that you need to figure out why you've been going in circles, or that you need to do something differently, but you choose not to give up. You choose to keep going, and you choose to maybe keep going even harder. In my life, in my reality, failure is actually not a thing anymore. And so it's not a thing that I'm ever afraid of, because it doesn't exist. It only exists when I give up. I have built so much trust in myself. I have built so much trust in the process, because the process that I've created works. I have proven it to myself over and over again, and I've got so many success stories from my clients. When I get stuck, I ask for support from the people who can help me. And so failure doesn't throw me off anymore. It's just another opportunity to go even deeper, to learn even more, to persist more. And failure can manifest in different forms. It can come in the form of an obstacle. So that might be perceived failure. That might be something where it's just a little challenge on the way. Failure can also come as a test in persistence. So that can be if something is severely delayed or it seems to be going terribly wrong. And it can also manifest as a lesson where something truly doesn't work out and you realize, okay, this wasn't it. I thought it was, but it wasn't. Now, it can be really hard to figure out which of the 3 it is. But the thing is, you cannot fail. You can delay your results. You can delay your manifestation. But you cannot fail unless you give up. That's when you'll fail. Let me know in the comments what your biggest manifestation failure was, and what it maybe taught you. And I look forward to seeing you again in next week's video.